G'day and welcome back to RC Model Reviews. Today I'm looking at the Kooltoyz 180, and this is a bit of a surprise, this machine actually. When I got sent this I thought, yeah, okay, it's another mini quad, and yes, it is another mini quad. And I thought, yeah, it's a bit basic, so it sat in the corner for a little while, and I have to admit I should have reviewed it a whole lot earlier than I did, because I've been so pleasantly surprised by this little craft. Now, let me run through some of the things that I think are really good about it for a start. It has a 4mm thick carbon base plate, one piece base, and that 4mm, that's brilliant. You will never break that. I'm pretty sure even I will never break that base plate. And trust me, I've tried today. I've given this a real thrashing today. Plenty of crashes and nothing, just bounces as you'd expect a mini quad to do. But looking at the design of it, there are no major stress rises, and because it's so small, a 4mm plate, and look how wide these arms are. I mean, they're not skinny, they're wide, so they're really tough. Now, this is just going to be bulletproof, absolutely bulletproof. I was surprised, however, to learn when I put it together, this little Mobius platform here, that's really thin, and even now I'm not so sure that shouldn't be a bit thicker. I think it's probably under 1mm thick, that plate, and they've really cut the hell out of it. Look, it's had huge holes hacked in it. You don't need these things to be that light. I mean, a piece of carbon that big, even a 2mm piece of carbon that big, is not heavy. So cutting holes in it, I just don't see the point. It just weakens it. You're paying for carbon, and then you're leaving half of it behind. You end up with something weaker. But having said that, I didn't break it, so hey, that's got to be good. Other thing I noticed was it has these little rubber mounts, or little rubber standoffs. Instead of the grommets we're so used to seeing, it's got these little rubber. We've seen these before on various things. They're quite stiff though. They're very stiff, so I don't know what the point is. They're not going to isolate any vibration, I don't think, from a camera you might put on that platform. So why are they there? I don't know. Maybe it's just a convenient way to put that space in there. So hey, that's fine. Now, I fitted this with an Aomway 700 TV line CMOS camera because, as I say, when I looked at it, I thought, oh, is it really worth putting a lot of effort into it? Because it's just going to be another little mini quad. So I didn't really spec it up very high. I've got some old SN20 BLHeli 20 amp ESCs from RC Time. I mean, they've been pretty damn good, but I mean, I've got them sitting here because they're not state of the art anymore. And I thought, I just throw those in, that'll be fine. And I had some SunnySky 2204 motors. I thought, yeah, I'm not going to waste, top spec motors on this thing because, it's just a fairly basic 180 size mini quad. And again, I've been really surprised that with all this relatively low spec equipment in it, this thing flies damn well. I am very happy with its flying characteristics. I took it out today, started off with some two-bladed props, and it was pretty lackluster on two-bladed props. I have to admit, it didn't really have a lot of punch, but it still flew pretty well. In fact, the thing is, I flew it until it ran out of battery and had a little crash. That's all right, not a problem. Then I put some three-bladers on, and unfortunately, I forgot to change the battery, so I took off and I had another crash, but nothing breaks, and it flies so much better with three bladers. You really, because these are only 2300 kV motors, you've got to load them up. You've got to load them up to get any power out of them. So with the three-bladed props, this flies well. It's got quite useful punch. It's no Bolt 210. It's not a high-performance mini quad, but it is really tough. It handles nicely, and it's just what it is. I'm going to use this. This is going to be the mini quad I use for people who want to have a go at mini quads. They want to try it out because I know I can give this to somebody and say, there you go, do your best. They're not going to break it. They're just not going to break it. And it's going to handle well. It's going to handle a knock. So I chuffed to bits with the way this thing is built and goes together. Now, I put some rubber on the top here for the battery. They may have come with rubber, I'm not sure, but I put some rubber on there so the battery isn't going to slide around on the top. I've used a NAS 32 board, revision 5 in there, just tucked in there. I've got, there was an old FPV transmitter I had laying around, I stuck on the top there, got that in there, not a problem. It does come with a really nice little PDB, which is one of the big features of this little quad. The little PDB takes care of the wiring, hooking all your wires together, and it has a 5-volt BEC, which is great because most of these ESCs these days on mini quads they don't have regulators in them, they don't have BECs in them, they're what's called opto ESC. So you've got to get 5 volts from somewhere, and that 5 volts comes off the PDB on this little quad. So that's brilliant. You have to have a separate BEC that floats around inside, and you've got to find a place to put it. It really makes it easy. I used a D4R2 receiver, which fits in there relatively nicely, and I ran the antennas underneath. I'm increasingly moving to running my antennas below the quad because I have found that when you have the antennas poking up here, sometimes, they'll get, if you're really going fast, they'll get blown down towards the props. You can get them sucked in. And so by having them underneath, they're going to be, once you're in the air, they're getting blown away from the props. They're out of the way. And I haven't had any prop strikes yet on these antennas, even though I must say that this one here, actually, when the prop spins, it makes a little ticky noise because it comes up. It doesn't harm, it's just sitting there. The only downside of having your antennas down like this is if you're flying and you have a crash and you're a fair way away and the grass is wet, you may go into failsafe because these antennas will be sitting on the ground. They won't get any signal, so you won't be able to take off again. You have to go and recover your quad manually, but that's the only downside I can think of it. Apart from that, these underneath antennas work really quite well. Another downside of the quad as it is that this Aomway camera, you can't get much tilt on it. You see, it is on a tilting mount, but you can only get this much tilt because the actual case of the camera bangs into these plastic standoffs here that they used for joining the top and bottom plate together. It actually bangs into the edge, so that's the maximum tilt you're going to get on this baby. It's not too much of an issue if you're using it as a beginner quad because you're not going to use a lot of tilt when you're flying as a beginner quad. And I was honking this around pretty good today because that's a wide angle lens and I could still fly well even with that little bit of tilt on, so that's not really such a big issue. And these are plastic standoffs, which I noticed that I'm actually not, I'm divided on whether plastic standoffs are good. They do tend to flex a little bit and absorb a bit of shock and impact rather than bending, permanently bending like metal ones do, but by the same token they're simply not as strong and the screws can pull out, they can strip out much more easily in here, but so far I haven't had any problems with it, so I'm happy with those. They seem to work pretty damn well. So in my flight tests I used a Turnigy Nanotech 1345C battery and I worked really well. 3 cells, all you need. It does have some really bright LEDs on the back, man. These LEDs, which are part of the package they sent me, are super, super bright, very visible in daylight, absolutely fantastic. I might actually buy some more of those. They just absolutely super, super bright. Love them to bits. So that's a really good part of the package as well. And of course, you get the Kooltoyz battery strap. Woo, there you go. So enough of me waffling on. I'd have to say that if you're looking for a quad that you want to build yourself, as opposed to one of these ready-to-flies like the Shuriken, if you're looking for something to build yourself, so you get the skill, you get the fun, you get the enjoyment, and you learn something while you're putting it together, then this little quad is going to be a great entry into mini quads. And because it's small, you can keep it in the glove box of your car or your truck, and you're not going to break it, and it's affordable. So there's not many downsides on this little baby, I have to say. If you're looking for a first quad, this is probably not a bad option. Bearing in mind that you're going to need a small receiver because not much room in there, it's pretty tight. You're going to need a small receiver like the FrSky XSR or the D4R2, and similarly your video transmitter will have to be fairly small as well because it's got a squeeze in the back there above the PDB. But those things aside, man, you know, I'd buy one of these. I'd buy one of these, and this is going to get so much use over the upcoming summer here because so many people are going to be introduced to mini quad flying through this particular piece of carbon. So there you go. I'll leave you with some flight footage from the DVR because I didn't put a Mobius on here. I'm using DVR footage more than Mobius footage because the Mobius footage, well, it just shows you, nice high resolution video. What a lot of people want to know is what's a pilot get to see when you fly these things. So you're getting a pilot's eye view of flying this thing. Now, as I say, my skills are still super rusty. So please don't consider that the crappy flying you see here is indicative of the potential of this machine. It could fly much better than I'm capable of flying it. So there you go. Thanks for watching in the meantime. If you've got any questions, comments, put them in the usual place. Now I will clear my bench and get on with another review. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.